Have you or are you suffering from a loss of motivation? Right now, that motivational loss could be something as big as I don't know why I'm alive, right? Or it could be something as little as I don't really feel like going to the gym today, right? But whichever it is, we're all somewhere on the spectrum of losing motivation at some point in our lives. And that, my friends, is completely fine. That's what makes us human, right? It happens to all of us. But what's important is, see, the loss of motivation can be a very slippery slope. Something as small as not feeling like you want to go to the gym could, in a few days, if not addressed, end up with you feeling like you don't know why you're alive, or that you're not a productive person, or you're useless, so on and so forth. Okay? So it's important for us to identify that, and of course, not just identify, but come up with a plan or a strategy to mitigate or avoid coming into situations like that frequently, right? And that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to try to understand the sort of structure of motivation, how motivation is created, and how you and I can become the architects of motivation. Because here's the key issue. When it comes to motivation, we have extrinsic factors, right, which are your outside factors that affect you, and your intrinsic factors, right? Now, your extrinsic could be stuff like badges, could be like promotions, job titles, monetary rewards, social acceptance, so on and so forth. But your intrinsic cues are things like purpose, meaning, vision, right? A sense of belonging, okay? That kind of a thing. Or rather, knowing that you're somebody who is serving your purpose, right? Living by your values. That is your intrinsic motivation. Right? Because those are stuff that you generate from within. It's not dependent on your mom or your dad or your friends or society or YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or anything else that generally tends to motivate us in different shapes and sizes. Now, before we become architects of motivation, we need to understand the three phases of motivation. Now, the first one is the spark, right? And spark is essentially ambition, right? The desire, the want to do something above average, something that people think is not possible, unrealistic, over ambitious, all of those. If anybody's labeled any idea or goal or vision that you've had as over ambitious, not possible, that's probably something you want to hold on to, right? Because Steve Jobs didn't do what was possible and what everyone thought could be done, right? Bill Gates didn't either. Mahatma Gandhi didn't either. Nelson Mandela didn't either. Michael Jordan didn't either. You get where I'm going, right? These guys didn't have stuff that everybody thought was possible. They shot for the stars, right? And that's why they ended up where they are. So number one, you've got to have ambition, right? Number two is you can have that ambition. It can fire that spark inside of you, but halfway through you kind of lose focus, right? Just think of it as you wake up in the morning and you're super motivated to go to the gym in the evening, right? You know this is important, this is in line with who you want to be, it's in line with what you want, but by afternoon, you're feeling a bit tired, maybe a little bit lazy, too much work, you just want to skip gym, right? So sustenance is the second component of motivation. How do we sustain that ambition or that motivation that we get? And then the final component is how do we grow that motivation? Because if we don't grow, right, we know that growth is the only thing that really brings people happiness, success, contentment, so on and so forth. That's why no one's ever happy with what they have for too long, right? We all want more, right, of some point. Hopefully it's something good, right? But the point is, see, when it comes to both being the architect of your motivation, understanding what it is, here are some tools or techniques that you can use. Number one, visualization first thing in the morning. Now, if you watched my previous video where I spoke about visualization and where I spoke about psychologist Alan Richardson, who spoke about that experiment where, you know, they had the whole thing with the basketball players, go and watch it, right? I'm not going to explain the whole thing again. But we understand the power of visualization. We understand that before any iconic moment was lived by any iconic athlete in a game or a championship or whatever, they visualized that moment time and time and time and time again, right? It wasn't something that just happened, right? They visualized it. So that's the first step, early morning, right? Getting into that state of visualization, putting yourself in that futuristic state when you are in that particular designation at your job, or when you are a dad or a mom, or when you launch your business and you're running that successful company. Put yourself in those shoes, because what happens is you're drawing that sense of emotion, that feeling, right? That motivation of a futuristic state, and our minds can do that. That's how powerful our minds are. So you draw that motivation and you get that motivation going right now. You're not there yet, but you start eating, drinking, dressing, showing up, and taking decisions like that futuristic version of yourself. So that's number one. Number two is setting midday, or at the end of the day, having a checkpoint, right? Now the midday checkpoint is super important because you've done your morning visualization, you've got all of the motivation in your body, you know exactly what you're gonna do. But then, by afternoon, your boss said something, your mom said something, your dad said something, or maybe you're just tired, or you had too much to eat. Whatever the reason is, you can lose the motivation that you have. So at that midday checkpoint, this is vital, this is critical. You need to identify and reward yourself for anything that you did right from morning. Anything, something as small as, you know what, I went to the gym. Maybe you didn't do your home workout, but you at least went to the gym. Recognize that, reward yourself. Why? Because reward in turn drives motivation, right? When you do something great at work in the morning and your boss comes and taps you on the back and says, you know what, good job, mate, you feel really driven to do even better for the rest of the day, right? And the problem is we can't allow that to be an external person or external factor. We need to be architects of our motivation. So we need to identify and recognize it. And at the same time, that midday checkpoint can be a reminder that you've got another half of the day. So even if you didn't do that great, right, you don't have to end on a low. You do not have to end on a low. You've got an entire half of a day remaining, right? Now that reminder can come in the form of a sticky note on your desk or your table or your home or wherever, or it could be an alarm on your phone, it could be a reminder on your watch, whatever works for you. Now the last stage, you guys, is growing your motivation. And this is something you ideally want to be doing every week, every month, every 6 months, every year. Depends on how much you want to grow your motivation, okay? Now, for me, growth of motivation comes through experiences, exposure, travel, meeting new people, reading new books, podcasts, right? Educational segments, online courses that grow my knowledge and understanding of the fact that there's so much more out there, right? So guys, this is what we need to do to become the architects of our motivation and to ensure, right, that we take control of the motivation in our life and we do not allow external factors which are unreliable, right, and not sustainable to be in charge. Now before I end, there's one more critical fact you need to take into account. See guys, you can be the architects, you can follow all the steps, but sometimes there are certain things you need to be practical about. For example, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not exercising, if you've got any health complications, any issues that you need to be dealing with professionally at a medical level, all right, these things can affect your motivation as well, right? And there's only so much all of the other techniques are going to help it. So you need to be smart and realistic about it as well. Take care of your health, eat a balanced diet, sleep, move regularly, have good relationships with people, right? So that's the last tip that I wanted to leave you with, guys. I hope this video has been of service to you guys because that's my passion. And if you've got any strategies, techniques, tools, tips, or even research that you've read that can add value to this, that can help me grow, please, guys, leave it in the comments, right? Because like I always say, this is not about me. This is not about me, telling you guys what I know, right? It's about all of us sharing our experience, whatever little we know, to help each other grow and become the best versions of ourselves. Because as we always say, it is progress that matters, not perfection. Until next time.